Hello, hello, hello. Greetings, fellow Lunasians. Welcome to the day that you've all been waiting for. Rivers, roads, and automobiles. Folks, I couldn't be more excited for this one. I'm always excited to be doing an Axie stream. But it's not every day I get to wake up and talk about land with you fine people. Give me a +1 if you're excited. I think many of you have been waiting days, months, weeks, some even years for these updates. We're moving at lightning speed, folks. You can't stop us now. I like that. I asked for a +1. I see a +10. Whoa. Whoa. Seatbelts ready. Hashtag seatbelts ready. I just love this picture so much. You know, like sometimes you see a picture and you go, that's a nice picture. And then sometimes you see an image like this, and I just want to stare at it for ages. Like I feel like I can close my head and start to feel myself entering Lunasia. I love that big Zeppelin in the background as well. Like there's some Axie engineer out there that's making flying machines, dude. Like look at this, there's so much that we can deduce just from this one little image. Like look at the left side of the bridge. Like what is that over there? Is that a car? Is that a bus? Is that a boat? And these Axies is smart. And whoever put this picture together, I mean, we got a big yak right in front here. I see a double braided big yak in 3 dimensions. I mean, you tell me what's up. Nine minutes until show starts. Seeing all those jagged rocks in the background like makes me think about Axie mountaineers. What's the highest point in Lunasia, and who will be the first Axie to make the climb? Who will summit Mount Lunasia? Mount Lunasia. I like that. I like that. Is that how it'll work? Whoever climbs it first gets to name it? I could be okay with that too. I had a dream where my big yak could carry more stuff inland. That's a great dream. That's a really great dream. I can't say that that's going to happen or that big yaks will have more cargo space, but I think that's a pretty wholesome dream you got there. Like, I love my big yak so much. I just want to put him to work. I want my yak to carry all my wares. That's pretty adorable. Big mule. That yak needs to sell his braid as an NFT. Oh my gosh. Now, you guys are brainstorming something fierce in this Twitch chat today, I tell you. Long live the yaks. That's all I got. Wife said if I get a land without her knowing to make sure I can sleep on that land. That's pretty funny. See a lot of familiar faces here in chat today. Love it. The 5-minute countdown, folks. We've got 5 minutes. Damn, this music's infectious, dude. I feel like this is going to be stuck in my head for the rest of the day now. This is classic. This is Axie classic music. See some more familiar faces. Rolling Boy, Spam and Rice. What's going on, my friends? There's Arctic Axie, Sensei. All right, look at this. We got the people in the house. The community's turning up tonight. I guess it depends on where you are in the world. Tonight, today. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Whoa, we got a sub gifter. Look out. Okay, let's make sure our overlays are good. I believe those sounds we're hearing are the arrival of one Philip, the star of the show today.
Yo, yo, what's up?
There we go. All of our friends on the live stream can hear you. They're very excited to hear about your thoughts today, Phil.
I am very excited to share them. Long time coming.
Yeah, I was remarking that I think some of the people watching today, this is like a year, multiple years in the works. Like, we've got some OG landholders here in the chat already.
Yeah.
I'm like mostly excited to hear everybody's feedback and see their reactions to what you're going to talk about today, but this is intense. You know, I'm like a little anxious. You know, product reveals they're intense, dude. It's a lot of fun, but
yeah, this one in particular for sure. It's definitely feeling you know, the clamoring for this info. So yeah, just gonna be giving it straight on all the stuff that's been worked on, and yeah, see what people think about it.
I like it. I mean, we've got a turnout so far. We got Sweet Feed in here, Arctic Gift and Subs. I see Undisputed News. What's going on, Steve Woody? I see Shade. I don't know why Shade, our Sky Mavis employee Jeff, hasn't been modded yet, but you know, he's a Prime Gaming sub at least. That's good. Flying Falcon in here as well. Not surprised. Giant and Genesis Estate definitely wants to get some tips on what's coming out with land.
Yeah, a lot of the usual suspects here.
Yeah, this is awesome. Shade, mod me. You're gonna have to make a special request with the boss on that one. That's above my pay grade, sir. All right, 2 minutes, dude. We are in the the final countdown here. I wish we had a little bumper, a little trailer to tease them with as we go in, but much to the disappointment of the audience, it's just going to be our pretty faces on camera.
Yeah.
Now, Phil, did you get on the Twitter and tweet to all of your new friends that we're going to be going live here momentarily?
I haven't tweeted yet. I've been just reading over my slides.
Well, that's probably a good thing, but
I'll do a quick retweet.
Nice. All right.
While we got a couple minutes left, just so people know. Oh, retweet your tweet.
Oh, beautiful. This is one of those rare moments where I feel so spoiled as a show host. Like, I don't have that much to do with this reveal. I'm here to facilitate and keep the show rolling, but I get a front row seat on the front lines, dude. I feel so lucky right now. Like, there's Sky Mavis employees watching this stream because they want to see the information you're going to talk about. I'm living this stream, brother. I'll stop bragging.
Real deal.
All right, we got 30 seconds, dude.
Countdown.
For real though, man, this Axie classic music is hitting me hard in the feels. It feels nostalgic already.
Oh.
Yeah, we're rocking the original.
I don't have the music on because I'm just on Discord with you. I want to hear it too.
All right. I think it is time, ladies and gentlemen, everything in between. Welcome to the big stream. This is it, the Axie Land Q&A. I'm Zyori, joined by Philip today. Philip Law, the full name, Phil for short. I love that your handle is just Phil. I love that. It's so simple. It's so elegant. Welcome to the show, buddy. It's great to have you back here on the official Axie channels. How are you?
I'm great. It's been a week. Origin launch. I've been going through a ton of feedback and then also thinking about land, also thinking about Builders Program. And yeah, haven't talked to, I guess, the community since the live stream we did around the pre-Origin reveals. So yeah, it's nice to be showing some new stuff already again.
Yeah, you're one of our newer employees, but you've actually gotten a decent amount of FaceTime with the community. I know you're excited about it, but I also feel like we've thrown you to the wolves a little bit. Like, all right, Phil, get out there. You're playing Origin today on stream. All right, Phil, get out there. We're talking about land today on stream. So you've had no easy job here, but you've got a really important job, right? What is your actual job title for those watching that aren't familiar with the great work of Phil from Sky Mavis?
Yeah, so I'm the game product lead, so everything related to the games basically, and then obviously I work really closely with Jeff Cam and everyone else on the marketplace side, and then people on the blockchain side too. So yeah, I'm mostly on the game side. I just love games, and yeah,
that's
really,
awesome. So you're the rug that ties the room together. You're like the guy that takes all these loose ends and you help piece it together to make sure our vision is consistent, cohesive, and ready for the expectations of our audience, right?
Yeah, totally. And trying to make sure people are aware of what's coming, what things look like, and this is a big part of that.
Yeah.
Today.
Absolutely. So today's stream is going to be all about land. For a quick agenda, we're going to do this little intro that you're observing right now. We're going to jump into a presentation where Phil is going to run through some of the principles for land design, talk about some of the things that are in the works, some of the stuff we're committed to, and then a lot of the things that we're talking about and still developing, but land is still a work in progress. So there are many things we're going to talk about today, I think, that are still being developed and could be subject to change as just a first disclaimer to get this going. After the presentation, then we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A. We had originally wanted to do a live Q&A like Twitter Space style, but we needed a platform that would allow us to show this presentation and all these beautiful graphics. So we decided that Twitch would be good, and we would just curate a bunch of questions ahead of time. We made effort to take honest questions, hard-hitting questions. I'm not going to be throwing Phil a bunch of softballs. There's going to be a few curveballs in there, a couple of speedballs, and he's going to do his best to answer as honestly and candidly as possible with the information that we have available. Anything I missed there, Phil? Any other disclaimers or early stuff you want to get out of the way before we just jump into this presentation?
No, I mean, I think I'm going to share everything I can. I don't think I'll have all the answers that everyone is looking for. But yeah, there'll definitely be a lot more than we've ever revealed, I would say. Yeah, a lot of things haven't been decided, and kind of exciting part of that is, you know, after this, I can hear from everyone in the community and start getting ideas from everyone else on how we should kind of evolve land and you know, what features we should add in the future and all that as well. So yeah, and yeah, everything's up for change. You know, things are fluid, and we'll have to work with that. Just how it is in game design.
Yeah, community feedback is huge, though, of course. It's a big part of our iterative process here at Axie Infinity and Sky Mavis, and we put everything out there expecting that all of you will share your thoughts, share your insights, give us a lot of great data and notes to work with, and then we'll start doing some of that magic of curating all of that amazing feedback. And Phil here will distill that into something, you know, really useful that we can actually action on. So, all right, what do you say we jump into the presentation? Are you ready, my friend?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, here we go. So full screen, this is you, buddy. Take it away. Land, the Project K update.
All right, so diving in. Yeah, so today going to be all about land. So first big disclaimer, you know, anything outlined in this document should not be taken as financial advice. You know, priorities, roadmaps, everything can change based on, you know, testing, your feedback, metrics, all of that. So let's get that out of the way up front. All of this is kind of up for change. But diving into it, let's get into a summary of what Land is. Land is, you know, the next flagship first-party game we're making at Sky Mavis within the Axie Infinity universe. It's going to span numerous genres across simulation, real-time strategy, and role-playing. It is a multi-year project. It's very ambitious, and yeah, there will be significant changes and updates to the game happening over the years. So literally, we are scratching the surface right now. The initial alpha that we want to do will focus on building up one's land, with later updates and phases still being designed. Progress in the alpha, once we launch the alpha, will be reset before launch, before full launch, and really, the goal of the game is to create a brand new social and super fun experience for all of you, made possible through NFTs and blockchain technology, and kind of really leveraging all the advantages for that. So what is in the alpha that we are planning? So this is kind of the V0, V1, whatever you want to call it. Age of Pioneers, initial alpha launch. These are kind of the main things we want to include. First test phase, really focused around building up one's land in a town building type game. It'll only be available to landowners. We've already mentioned a bunch of this in the previous blog post, but kind of reiterating for anyone who hasn't gone over that. This will involve harvesting, trading resources, and building and upgrading structures. And the focus for this phase will really be about validating kind of that base gameplay that everything else will be kind of added on top of. And making sure it works for a more limited group of our landowners first. Land items will not have their buffs active in phase 1, but their updated buffs will be introduced in later phases. No token gameplay in this initial alpha phase either, and it'll only be available on desktop devices to start.
Hey, Phil, one thing I wanted to ask on this part, even though the land items won't have their effects active, will we still be able to place the land items from like a cosmetic perspective, or will items just kind of be like disabled until later phases?
Yeah, so we still want them to be able to be placed for cosmetic purposes, but yeah, their buffs and bonuses will be added in later.
Cool, very cool.
Cool. And so here are some of the main elements. So gathering materials from materials deposits in the world, building and upgrading structures for production. In the production side, processing various materials into other useful resources. Crafting, using all the things that you're farming for and producing to craft items that you will sell to NPCs. And then also trading, so you'll be able to trade resources with players through an auction house. And the last one is player to NPC selling. So all these items you're crafting, you'll actually sell to NPC adventurers. These won't be Axies, they will actually be native Lunasians. And you'll be able to get in-app currency from them, and that'll allow them to defeat monsters across the land, and you'll receive leaderboard points for those. And from this in-app currency, you'll be able to further upgrade, gather, produce, and that's kind of the core game loop.
So one note on. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go for it.
I just wanted to ask. I saw you put in there will be non-Axie beings native to Lunasia. Anything you can share around that? Like, are we talking humans? Are we talking chimera? Is there going to be some new class of creatures?
Yeah, not as much to share on that right now, but the art team's always busy. We are going to have some native Lunasian kind of different races that you will be able to interact with.
Oh, that's hype. So that's so cool.
Those are coming. Yeah. So let's dig into it. So within this version, there won't be NFT Axies to be used yet. So landowners will get worker Axies that will be made available that they can use to build up their land. But NFT Axies are obviously a fundamental part of our ecosystem and the game. And so as we introduce them and add them in, I'll kind of talk about more of the ideas of what NFT Axies will be able to do. These are really early art kind of graphics as well. So all of these will be kind of updated and changed over time too.
Love it.
And in terms of gathering, was there a question?
No, just love it. Okay. Seeing Oleg in that art style, cool. Dude, he's huge. He's so beautiful. Yeah, they look great. So gathering, pretty straightforward. You'll be able to find materials on your land and in the nodes on the map to gather different materials. And in the future, pink nodes will have a larger variety of different materials that you can gather. On different land tiers, higher land tiers will have buffs around gathering, producing, basically across the board. And you'll also be able to obtain exclusive materials in the future on different land tiers as well. Obviously there's depending on what type of land you own, there will be different things you can get, and some will be more valuable and more scarce than others. This might be a question that you can't answer that well, but I hear a lot of people ask about proximity to Luna's Landing. Is the idea that Luna's Landing will be like a spawn point, or like there will be events there, or just looking at that big red part of the map, is there anything that we could say about that relative to the other tiers of land? Yeah. So for Luna's Landing, there's actually no solid plans for it right now, and so definitely open to ideas from landowners and players. Some of the ideas have included exclusive dungeons that have in-game events, exclusive kind of enemies that you can battle, and resources that you can find on Luna's Landing. So those are kind of some of the ideas that have been floated around. Cool. All right, there you go, community. First route for feedback. What do we do with Luna's Landing? Can't wait to see all these suggestions. Yeah, totally. So on the player-to-player trading part, there'll be an auction system house for people to trade resources and currencies, and things will actually have to be delivered across the land. And so that's why your land position and your neighbors and all of that matters, and roads as well, which will decrease the time it takes for things to be traded across the land. And so, if you trade with someone across the map, it might take a lot longer for you to get what you need. And there'll be fees for listing and purchasing items within the auction house in the game. I love that. Having like a reason for roads and like that access and having to move, moving across the map. To me, that's such a key part of making land feel like a land experience. That's really awesome. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. So yeah, very unique, I think, relative to many other games where it's just kind of, everyone's everywhere, your distance from people don't really matter. Like all that matters here.
Awesome.
So in terms of the kind of NPC game loop, there'll be a leaderboard. So as you sell items that you craft to these NPCs, these native Lunasians, and they go battle monsters. As they defeat monsters, you will accumulate points. That will go to your leaderboard points, and obviously in the future there'll be rewards for people who are at the top of the leaderboard. And so you can see how basically all of it connects. Where if you produce, and then if you build, if you produce more, you gather more. You're able to craft better stuff. You're able to equip your NPC better. You're able to get more leaderboard points, which gets you more rewards and kind of keeps that whole system going. And so that's kind of the basic system. Land items. So we touched on this. Yeah, during the alpha phase, they won't have any of their buffs active, but they can be placed on your land as cosmetics. And then in the future, obviously, they will have their buffs kind of turned on. And depending on the land item, they might change, since we have a pretty different design than what we used to have, 3 years ago. And so any buffs changes will kind of maintain the spirit of their existing described buffs.
Right, and this one shouldn't be too surprising because now that we don't have stats the way we used to, right? Like obviously any item that just buffs stats is going to have to be changed in some way. So hopefully that's not a huge surprise to people, but the key part there is the spirit will be maintained. Like we want the concept of the item to still have some of that identity to it. And that will take some design effort, but that's what our goal is there. And I think that's what most people ask me about when it comes to land items.
Totally. So that's the basic game loop kind of outlined there. And so this is really just for the alpha. It's going to get a lot more complicated. But you can see, you gather resources, you build and upgrade structures, produce materials, craft items, sell those to NPCs. NPCs win in battles, and then you earn leaderboard points, and you also get soft currency from them to build more stuff. And then all of these different kind of resources and items can be traded in the auction house. So many other elements that we will be adding in to this kind of loop. But yeah, that's kind of the framework that we're working within.
So when you sell things to NPCs, that's sort of like the equivalent of like a burned, like you craft these items, you sell them to the NPC, they're gone for you, and then the better the items are, like the more powerful the NPCs are in their battles. Is that the general kind of flow? So whenever you send off an NPC, then you have to craft more stuff because you need to get items, gear, whatever, buffs for your future NPCs you'll send out. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's
so
right.
You're constantly in this loop of like building stuff, selling it, building stuff, selling it. Gotcha.
Totally.
Cool.
And then, from there, as you get soft currency from them as well, you'll be able to build cooler stuff, interesting buildings, get more cosmetics, all that stuff to make your land look awesome and be able to do more things as well.
Cool.
And I think that's the alpha. So in terms of timeline, we are aiming for end of the year. So we are, probably 80 to 90% sure we can get it out by the end of the year. Obviously, there's a lot of variables with development, but that's kind of the current timeline we're looking at. Yeah, we will obviously try to push to get it as early as possible, but a lot of work to be done still.
Yeah.
Cool. So wanted to dive into some follow-up to the alpha as well. And so this is more kind of in design and subject to change things even more so than the alpha work. So AXS token gameplay, which I'm sure many people are interested in, the initial AXS gameplay loop, we are looking to potentially incorporate it into the NPC game loop. So there'll be ways to increase the amount of AXS that can be earned through different parts of the game. The benefits from different tiers of land will contribute to players' ability to earn more or less AXS. So, if you can produce more, then you can power up your NPCs more, then, you could potentially earn more AXS. If, as NPCs go into battle, they're able to, pick up AXS from monsters or whatnot. And yeah, there'll be different mechanics, kind of the second bullet here around, there are different ways to improve how well your NPC performs, or to produce more materials to craft better items. And so there'll be different mechanics to increase the amount of AXS that you can earn through all different parts of the game.
Gotcha. And maybe this is something you're about to go into, but I get this question a lot. Like, will SLP be in land at all? I'm sure people are curious about the land token at all, but like, does SLP have any connection to land whatsoever?
So right now, the answer is no. So there's no solid plans for it, but there's possibility in the future that it will have some use cases within land. So kind of some just background around that too, tying together, economies and resources from outside of the game, outside of kind of an individual game can be extremely difficult. And so the game could break due to, changes externally. For example, if SLP is a required resources for building, a super key structure to progress, now the progression difficulty will fluctuate based on the price of SLP, which is affected by a lot of factors external to land, right? So
sure.
This can cause a lot of, difficulties in the game design if, you're designing a certain progression system to go in a certain way, and it's completely dependent on factors outside of the game's control. SLP is not going to be in land to start, but potentially in the future, there's a lot of different ideas of how it can be part of it to make cosmetics or things like that.
There's got to be some potential ways to burn, there's got to be something we can come up with. But
yeah,
no, that sounds great. I mean, I think AXS was always supposed to be that token that is part of land. So just curious, a lot of talk about SLP these days. So
totally. Awesome. So some other things we're looking at for post alpha, in-app purchase system. So the initial alpha gameplay, we're actually going to tune it to be much easier than it's supposed to be. And then in the full launch, we'll retune it to have kind of in-app purchases where you can, accelerate your gameplay or purchase certain items to move faster and, do things, get items you need. So there will be an in-app purchase system added in as well. And then last item here, I believe, is NFT Axie navigation. So NFT Axies obviously are going to be part of the land gameplay. One of the goals is ultimately players have the ability to just explore land, controlling their NFT Axie. We do need to animate all of them and all their parts in 3D, which is going to take a while. But as we get that complete, then we want to test out kind of initially just allowing players to walk around land with their NFT Axies, and eventually be able to hang out with each other and interact more with others in the future.
So just to be completely clear, reading off of this slide almost verbatim, although we would have liked to include them into phase 1, major work will take many months, needs to be done in converting all NFT Axies into 3D. So when the alpha for land comes out, hopefully by the end of the year, it'll be with starter Axies, not with NFT Axies. NFT Axies will come at a later phase. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
I just want to be explicitly clear about this because I think that's something some people might have had as an expectation in phase 1. So I just want to really hit this point and make sure people understand that it is coming and there will be NFT Axies in land gameplay, just not right away. The very first step is about the gameplay loop.
Totally. So initial game is purely, all off-chain basically, other than the land itself. And so all the kind of worker Axies that I mentioned earlier will all be off-chain, kind of starter type Axies that you can use to just play the game. NFT Axies will come much later, after that alpha.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cool. And then finally, future ideas. So these are even earlier, but wanted to share obviously and start getting feedback and getting ideas. But this is kind of what we're thinking for a lot of the features coming up after. So obviously, NFT Axies could be part of the system that we were calling the Avatar Axie. So every player could get one free Axie that they can use as kind of the avatar to walk across land. And players can substitute any NFT Axie to use as their avatar Axie as well. This would be kind of the main Axie used to get around and interact and just do things across different parts of the land. Free property. So I mentioned earlier, alpha is all landowners, but we do want to introduce some gameplay and property that free players can get. Obviously, it won't have the type of utility and production abilities that the main landowners have, but it'll be an area that they can decorate, upgrade, and craft. They'll have some minimal, gathering production capabilities, but a lot of the resources they would need to obtain from, completing tasks for actual landowners and going to the mainland plots to, do various tasks.
I mean, this does make a lot of sense to me, though, right? Because land has to scale as we scale with more players. There are not millions of plots of land up for grabs. So as Axie grows, how can the average player have an experience that gets to touch land, and having some sort of free property that is very limited, or some way to load into the world, and maybe you get allow listed and get invited to someone else's plot. But there has to be some way for just regular players without land to interact with land in some capacity in the future. I mean, that's just, to me, that's kind of a given, I think, right?
Yeah, totally. We have, a lot more than, the number of land plots, a lot more players than we have the number of land plots. So definitely making sure that everyone in kind of the Axie Infinity ecosystem can enjoy land and, really have full gameplay in different ways. So we'll be kind of isometric gameplay where, obviously landowners will have a different type of gameplay than people who don't own kind of the mainland. Giving everyone fun ways to interact with each other and just enjoy land is definitely a core part of the game. Cool. And then the next part, still related to that point actually, is landowners would have a variety of in-game methods to allow other players to assist in their land development progression. And so we don't have this in, alpha and kind of the initial version, where people can, have an official system to lend out their land or let other people use their land. And but we do want to add all those things in where landowners can, get help from people to do a lot of different things, and they can share in kind of the rewards. So that's definitely a big feature that we want to work on in the future. Dungeon battles. We want people to be able to bring their Axies to battle, chimeras and dungeons to earn resources and loot.
Now you're speaking my language. I want to battle. I want to win items. I want to command and conquer, dude. Now, like, dungeon battles that's what piques my interest. I'm so excited about this part.
Totally. Landowners would be able to form larger battle parties. So definitely a big advantage of owning land. And they can get help from their friends and other players to take on the tougher chimeras. Digging in more into NFT Axies too. Once they get introduced into the game, they will obviously have a lot more utility than your typical, worker Axie or non-NFT Axies. So they, gather much faster. They're able to defeat strong chimeras. They're able to, find land tokens, which is kind of the next item. And so, on the land token side, we want to introduce a token that can be earned from NFT Axie gameplay within land. So these tokens would have a lot of different use cases, literally across all the different actions in land, including being used to craft, NFT items and resources and, upgrading more advanced structures. So all of that would be part of a kind of holistic land token design. And obviously we want to do it in a way that's sustainable and has the right sinks and sources and control systems in place. Last one is just NFTs as a whole. So new NFT items would be introduced in the game with various functional or cosmetic value, including rare resources, equipment items for Axies to battle chimeras, new land items to place on your land. And these land NFT items would require certain tokens to craft. They might be discoverable by NFT Axies or earned as loot from chimera battles. So you can see there's the kind of base of what we're building, and this is everything on top that we can add on and much more. I think that is the last slide of land.
Now, before we jump into questions, I do have a burning one, and I hate to put you on the spot here, Phil, but your presentation is missing 3 key letters that I want to know about. SDK. And I'm sure I'm not the only one watching this presentation. Like, where does that fit into the vision here?
Yeah, so SDK is definitely much further down the line. We There's a lot of different ways to integrate it, but I think the idea for SDK and new experiences is we would build map builders and ways for people to build new experiences on land. Um, and so obviously we have the builders program, which I work on as well. And that could be integrated and land in certain ways as well. Potentially there's ways that certain, builders games are discoverable through land. And you can only discover them through maybe certain plots. A lot of different ways we can skin that and spin it, but yeah, SDK is further down the line, and there'll be different ways for how SDK experiences are shown and kind of merchandised through land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, important to reiterate there that we need the foundation first, right? We need this basic framework deployed, and then we can start adding layers on top of land. And it's just really important to recognize that the SDK is a later layer. It's not in the foundation. It comes a few steps down the road. But I bring it up only because I get that question a lot. And like, we have a community of builders here, Phil. We have a community full of people that are like, yo, give me the tools because I want to build something awesome. So, yeah, I'm sure we'll continue to get that question as well, just because I know people are excited about it. All right. Well, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, should we dive into the questions?
I was going to say, let's do it.
Yeah, so I know that...
Please, my bad.
Oh, no, go for it.
All right, awkward moment. So yeah, I think my first question is a really high level one, but like, why is land taking so long? I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary at Sky Mavis, and there were already people holding land, for a year plus before I signed on. So what's caused the delays, and why has this been such a long-term project, especially in the context of like crypto, right? Like everything moves fast in this industry. Would love any light that you can shed on this big one.
Yeah. So one thing before I dive into it, I just wanted to call out that, thank you to everyone who submitted questions on Twitter. And I know there was the big land document that was created by the land channel on Discord. So took a lot of those questions, basically added them in here. So we'll be going over a lot of those and appreciate everyone kind of compiling all that for me. So I know kind of what really matters to everyone here. But yeah, diving in to timelines and land, and it's just a huge long-term project. First of all, in the early days, the team literally only had a few engineers for the whole company. As you can imagine, it was bear market back then. The team was just a handful of people, and most effort was going into battles during that time. So as the team slowly grew, they were able to allocate literally just a couple engineers to build the basic demo that some people got to test out. And literally, they were just trying to test out some concepts at that time. And a big thing is at this time, there was still no game designer or art director for the project. It was just a couple engineers kind of hacking on some demos. And then throughout kind of the year, additional demos were built internally, kind of didn't meet our standard. Games take a lot of iteration, and a big missing piece was that game designer and art director that we eventually were able to hire in 2021. As we grew, and so they helped to design this current version of land that we have, that we believe is really the best path forward, and that's what we're pushing on now. And so now it's no more this or that. Like, what is kind of going to be the base version of it? Like, this is it, and we're moving forward, and just going to be building on top of it.
I love it. So we're committed.
So yeah, that's kind of been the line.
Yeah. It's a good
Yeah,
answer.
With a big part with games is you have to prototype a lot. You have to try a lot of different things because making a good game and obviously choosing kind of what initial direction to go is super, super important. Especially, because we plan on working on this for years and years to come. We wanted to make sure that, we put a lot of thought and time to figure out what that direction is.
The stability of the foundation is directly proportional to how high you can build the structure, right? So if we want to build a lot of layers on top of land and have this really robust experience, we have to make sure that foundation is sound and well-rounded enough to handle all these pivot points. one of those pivot points was 2D to 3D. Anything that you can share about that decision and why we decided to commit to a 3D future for land?
Yeah, I mean, really similar principles, I would say, in terms of sustainability and kind of long term. 3D just unlocks, a lot more gameplay and ways to scale, basically. And the way you can manipulate 3D objects is very different than 2D. It creates a sustainable foundation, so new features can be added in the future more easily without literally redoing animations and drawings every time for every new feature if we're doing it in 2D. So 3D allows us to be much more scalable in that way.
So it's like a little more time investment up front, but it opens up a lot more pathways in the future. Sort of like Ronin, right? It took us a lot of time to build it, but now that we've got our own blockchain, we're like set up for the scalable future, right?
Exactly.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. All right, well, let's talk about opportunity cost. For landowners that expected utility for their land earlier this year, or maybe even before that, anything going to be done to like make up for this delay?
Yeah, so unfortunately, game development there are a lot of variables and delays can happen, obviously due to wanting to create ultimately the best and most sustainable, fun product that we can. I definitely, I think everyone on the team empathizes kind of with our players who have been waiting really patiently for land that they've purchased for so long and don't have utility yet. And the delay will definitely be something we consider and factor in when we do start releasing, the AXS gameplay and rewards through land. I mean, this has always been available, but, for the Builders program that I will hopefully we'll be providing updates on soon as well. People are welcome to create games that create utility for land NFTs as well, land-specific builder program features and experiences. And that's an area where we can, provide potentially larger AXS grants to be distributed to landowners if people do build land-specific experiences. So that's one way that things can come sooner. But other than that, we just need to get land out and get the AXS gameplay in there, and then all of it will be kind of factored into that.
So then what about opportunity costs, right? Utility is one part, but I also hear a lot of landowners say, I could have bought X project instead of this land, and now that project is to the moon, and land is, wherever land is at the given time. Anything you can say about that kind of opportunity cost? I think that's innate to all levels of investing. There's always an opportunity cost, but I get that question a lot.
Yeah, I mean, purchasing game assets, I think in general will come with risk, especially in this space as games are developed and evolved. And as I mentioned, creating a fun and sustainable game in the long term is what is most important for land. And that is going to be prioritized over, necessarily strict deadlines, or that may force us to release, a bad game. I think that would be much worse for our landowners and everyone if we spend a lot of effort to put out a game that just isn't as good. And so that's just kind of the risk that comes with purchasing I think any types of game assets from any game.
And especially, NFT gaming is bleeding edge technology. We are on not even the cutting edge, but like the bleeding edge of this tech. And then you talk about an alpha game on this bleeding edge technology. There's like layers of this is the ultra new, very high risk stuff that is being developed in real time. So always important to remember the risk that comes along with just being an early adopter. We're like the early adopters of the early adopters here, Phil. That's a very unique position to be in as a community. And there's some unique parameters, I guess, that come along with that.
Yeah, totally. Obviously, we want to get things out as soon as possible too. So it's not like, we are just kind of, building things for the sake of building, forever. Like we want to get things out and we want to ship. So now that we kind of have our direction set and we have, the solid team in place, we're definitely kind of on that path.
Gotcha. So, all right, one last dig here on the earning and utility potential. Will there be any way to earn on my plots before the full game comes out? Even like, phase one, we weren't talking about AXS tokens or anything like that. Will I be able to earn anything like in the, foreseeable future with my land, aside from just selling it, of course?
Yeah, so other features I would say I've discussed before, such as badges and kind of a larger implementation of Axie score. Those things are, would likely be influenced by land ownership. And, those could provide different types of utility before the full land release, if we're able to get those features out before.
That's an interesting thought. Like with the Axie score and governance, land asset ownership could have its own category in terms of contributing to the Axie score. That's something I hadn't thought about at all. I think that's really interesting. All right, I wanted to ask a little bit about communication. It's something that I think we've gotten a little bit better at recently. Learning how to communicate in this bleeding edge technology is certainly a challenge. But why didn't we really communicate anything about 2D to 3D? We just dropped that. There was no discussion. There was no DAO. There was no testing. What's the answer there?
Yeah, I think that was just a miss on our part. I think, we take responsibility for that. I'm here now. I'm here to talk about land anytime with anyone as much as possible. So, looking to just be more communicative and transparent moving forward on progress and changes. I think that's, reasonable in terms of, us not necessarily communicating that further ahead. This presentation is just one step in that direction.
Gotcha. Well, good on you. That's not much more to say about that. So we talked about timeline a fair amount. I think you mentioned by the end of the year was what we were hoping for. Any confidence interval attached to that? Like, are you feeling pretty good that we'll have something playable by the end of 2022?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that we can get an alpha out by the end of the year. I would say, 80% ish confidence. Depending on if there happens to be some system that is harder to build or some more complex design kind of issues that come up. But yeah, I think end of the year should be pretty reasonable.
And then for like play and earn type mechanics, do we have any timeline there? Like when those phases could be? Like 2023, I hope?
Yeah, I think AXS rewards will be, one of the soonest follow-up features after the alpha. So we'll likely try to get that out early next year, if possible.
Okay, super cool. So let's keep going on this earnings potential thing, because I think this thread is actually pretty good. I've seen people suggest like staking, ways to stake your land for some sort of like modifier on rewards, or maybe locking up your land yields some kind of reward. Any plans for like utilizing some sort of staking mechanic?
Yeah, so I think just at a higher level, in terms of rewards, we generally want to make sure that we are rewarding active gameplay and contributions to the ecosystem. So staking land is not going to be something that we implement or yield rewards, but we do want to find ways for that active gameplay and ways for people to earn through contributions. And that's kind of how we look at all of, most of our products is really about like, you got to play to earn. It's not just, earn for...
not buy to earn. It's play to earn. Yeah, I see. The gameplay is the key part there. Okay. So like, do we have any calibration of what the earnings could look like? Like, as a Savannah plot as a starting point, or like a Genesis plot as a starting point, like any calibration points or like... I guess I'm curious to like get like maybe an order of magnitude as to how much my Arctic plot is going to earn me.
Yeah, we haven't decided yet, but kind of, we have a play and earn allocation from the AXS kind of issuances. And, part of that will definitely go to land, and they'll be able to earn that through the Npc Game Loop. The actual numbers haven't been decided yet, but obviously, given the advantages that higher tier plots will have, they will be able to earn more, and we would tune that in a way that makes the most sense based on the different plots and their actors and their initial prices or other areas as well.
We talked about land gameplay for non-owners being a key part of like the scalability of land. I don't have a plot, but I can still join in, load with an Axie, and see what's going on in land. Is that something like would there be any paywall attached to that? Or is that something you imagine being like a free to play type element where there's a very limited sort of free version of land where you don't need NFTs, but you can still load in and hang out, let's call it?
Yeah, I think I mentioned we'll have kind of free land is the idea, and a lot of different types of gameplay for non-landowners to interact with landowners and do different things on land. So yeah, lots should be lots for everyone.
Okay, awesome. And I think we had talked earlier, I think I asked you about SLP and land, right? Whether or not that would be connected at all. And I think the answer was a pretty strong no. Maybe some point in the future, there could be some burning elements, but SLP won't be like deeply tied to land during the launch or any time in its early conception, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally
separate there. All right, well, how about some gameplay stuff? Like, what about communication? I spend a lot of time chatting with people on various social medias and whatnot. Am I going to be able to talk to my friends in my land plot at least?
Yeah. So in terms of the way we look at land, and I think there's out there there's all different types of land, and ways that people are having different gameplay on land. And I would say at a higher level, there's the more metaversey type land, which is like you just hang out, you can talk to people, you can maybe like build a couple things yourself or craft your your room or your land. And then there's kind of more our side that we've been focusing more on, which is the game, like a land with real gameplay on top, full game loops, all of that. And that's kind of really what we're focused on, is like really creating a real game that people can play and progress and have fun with. And so we're focusing on the gameplay side first, but we do want to add the metaverse elements after that. And so initially there won't be, in-game communication or ways to, hang out with your friends and all of that. But all of those things are things we want to add in. And obviously we'll need to take into account all the things that come with that, such as, concurrent, gameplay and people interacting with each other. Like, do we need multiple servers now? All those types of things as we build out kind of the metaverse side of the game as well.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm sure you and I will have follow-up conversations about this, but I am such a bull on the social aspect. I want more ways to be able to socialize with my friends, my guildmates, my scholars, to make new friends as well. I mean, that's what half this is about, Phil. We're all lonely gamers at home playing video games by ourselves. I want to meet some new friends along the way. So I am really excited about those like social elements that can be integrated on top of the core gameplay. So yeah, you know me, I like to communicate. How about estates, multiple plots connected together? I always had this vision that there would be these like mega structures that you would need multiple plots, in different shapes to build like, this massive forge or the big, whatever it is, the smelting spot. Is there truth to that? Like, is there value to having estates? Any light you can shed on that, I would love to hear about.
Yeah, so we don't have any plans to have structure that span multiple plots right now. But the current thinking is that